Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day, a beautiful day outside, to join us online. My name is Christy Wright, and I work in the Experiential Learning Hub. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the EL Hub, our unit is one of six units that live in the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. So we work alongside academic integrity, curriculum quality assurance, the digital media projects group, digital learning, and teaching development. And I'm joined today by a couple colleagues who've already been named. So Jasmine Cherian, who's our operations and project specialist, and Danielle Moed, our educational developer, who our unit, the Experiential Learning Hub, shares with the teaching development team. And Danielle, as you will have seen from the communication so far, is the lead support for this project. So. We're thrilled to have you here to learn more about our Experiential Learning Design Grant Program. As a bit of background, our unit is now in its second year of being able to offer this initiative to the TMU teaching community. And we're really excited to apply our learnings from last year to the upcoming grant cycle. And we're also really excited to have one of our grantees from last year here with us today to present and share his experience developing a new EL component to bring into his course, and what that's meant on a go forward basis for him. So before we go any further, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement to start our time together. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. The dish, or sometimes it is called the bowl, represents what is now southern Ontario from the Great Lakes to Quebec and from Lake Simcoe to the United States. And we all eat out of this dish. All of us share this territory with only one spoon. This means that we have to share the responsibility of ensuring that the dish is never empty, which includes taking care of the land and the creatures that we share with it. Importantly, there are no knives at this table, representing that we must keep the peace. And with June wrapping up and it having been National Indigenous Peoples Month, there's been a variety of events and activities being offered across campus. In fact, I think there's one being offered in tandem with this session, but goes till 3 o'clock. But if you haven't had an opportunity to participate in any of them, I just wanted to highlight that there is one more taking place on Friday afternoon from 1 to 3, and it's the Fostering Allyship Tour and Discussion. And it's going to be taking place actually on the 8th floor of the building that we have the privilege of working out of, which is the DCC building at 288 Church Street. So I think we're going to share a link to more about that very experiential opportunity in case you're interested in attending that. And I will now pass it back over to Danielle.
Awesome, thank you. Um, so this is our agenda for today. But before I share a little bit about our agenda, I wanted to share a little bit about the grants and their intended purpose. So the Experiential Learning Design Grant, or ELDG as an acronym, its aim is to help build our educators' capacity to enhance, expand, and sustain course-based experiential learning initiatives. These grants are intended to benefit the Toronto metropolitan community and the broader local and global communities within which we operate, while also promoting awareness of experiential learning excellence across TMU and contributing to the future readiness goals outlined in TMU's academic plan for 2025 to 2030. Through this grant program, ELDG recipients will have the opportunity to develop a newer or enhance an existing experiential learning course-based intervention informed by praxis-oriented experiential learning pedagogies and practices. So in terms of what we're going to speak about today, we're going to offer a very brief introduction to experiential learning at TMU. Following this, we will speak a little bit about to what we're funding, so what types of projects we're funding, what eligible expenses are possible. We'll talk a little bit about how to apply, and with that, who can apply as well, what you might expect as a recipient, and then we'll hear from, as Christy mentioned, one of our previous cohort members or recipients, Dr. Tamer Abdu. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So, what exactly is experiential learning? So, I'm sure different folks in the room may have varying degrees of experience with experiential learning. So, I thought it may be helpful to offer a definition. With this, I'll say that arriving at a definition for experiential learning can be challenging, as it can sometimes be an elusive concept and can tend to resist categorization. That said, as experiential learning integration into academic plans, such as our own, continues to occur, it's beneficial to have a clear practical definition that is legible both for educators, students, and partners if you happen to be involved in partnership-based experiential learning. So for us, I opted to situate our understanding of experiential learning in the definition that's been offered by Flanagan et al. 2024, which defines experiential learning as learning by doing, by being, by reflecting, and by connecting. So while at first glance, this definition may appear simplistic, um, it was born out of Flanagan and al.'s work towards decolonization of experiential learning and offers a set of elements that, when considered together, can shift us towards a more comprehensive, holistic, and dynamic vision of experiential learning. So, briefly, I'll share that learning by doing refers to students' active engagement in learning, literally by doing, and the application of theory to practice within meaningful, authentic contexts. Learning by being is really touching on the prioritization of students' immersion in the experience and its possibility that, when processed through reflective thought, can support a student's development as a person in the world and their identities as a professional, as a community member, or otherwise. Learning by reflecting, again, refers to the bridging of knowledge and experience through critical reflection, which acts as a catalyst for transformative learning. And learning by connecting refers both to the connections students make between their education and the real world per se, as well as the learning that takes place when students connect with others, whether it be each other, partners, members of the community, and whether that connection occurs in the classroom, in community, in the workplace, or on the land. Lastly, it is important to note that while all experiential learning can be considered active learning, which is a term many of you may have heard as well, not all active learning is in fact experiential. So, three key differentiators between the two are mainly in experiential learning's focus on authenticity, so that situation and meaningful engagements and relevant, complex context, challenges, or problems. Um, as I mentioned, its situatedness in context and its intentionality and design. So through its, for instance, its purposeful integration into programs and curricula. So if, for instance, when you're considering your own potential experiential learning opportunity, if you're unsure about where it might fall with between active or experiential learning, we're more than happy to chat with you about that. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. So, like most institutions, TMU included, has a variety of types of experiential learning that we recognize at the institution. So, for TMU, there are 17 types of experiential learning. So, those include cooperative education and cooperative internship, capstones, case studies, community-based learning, field studies, equity-centered learning, external projects, international learning, internship, lab work, land-based learning, practicum placement or placement, research projects, simulation, studio, entrepreneurship, and zone learning. Um, It is beneficial to note, though, with these types that they don't necessarily always capture the full richness or possibility within experiential learning. So, for instance, if you're thinking about an experiential learning component for your course and it doesn't really seem to fit, that's okay. Oftentimes, there are versions of experiential learning that might combine these different types or might be in and around these different types, and they would still be considered forms of experiential learning. Um, If interested, there is a link in the slide here where you can learn more about what these 17 types are. That document provides values and definitions for each type. And again, if you're unsure about which type or types your particular experiential learning course component might fall within, you're more than welcome to chat with us and we can help you determine which one or which ones that might be. Okay. So we've offered a brief introduction to experiential learning at TMU. So now we can turn more specifically to the EL Design Grant itself and the types of projects we are funding. So through the EL Design Grant Program, as I mentioned earlier, recipients have the opportunity to develop a new or enhance or scale an existing experiential learning opportunity within a course. And the course for this cohort would need to be delivered either in winter 2027, spring, summer 2027, or fall 2027. It doesn't need to be delivered in all those terms, just one of these. So, projects that are ineligible then for this round include those that are program level initiatives, so those that would not be tied to a specific course, or course level initiatives that would have a course delivery in fall 2026 would not be eligible either. Okay, I think we can go to the next slide. Um, this is the fun part, the part that people probably are most interested about. So, how much funding is actually available? For the 2026-2027 EL Design Grant, recipients can receive up to $4,000 of one-time financial support to use towards the design development and/or implementation of their course-based EL intervention. Okay, you can go to the next slide. And with this, it's important to understand what expenses are eligible to be covered and which ones may be ineligible. So for this round of the EL Design Grant, the expenses that are eligible to be funded include those associated with external partners. So those could be costs associated with external partners who might include, but are not limited to, community members, industry mentors, and external subject matter experts. So this could look like honoraria, could look like consultative fees. Student partners. So when we're talking about this expense, what we're talking about are costs associated with funding a student partner. So this could look like a research and partnership assistant, a research assistant. There's variations upon what this could look like. But most importantly, students engaged in this role must act in a pedagogical and/or partnership support role and may not be engaged in duties that would be typically assigned to an academic assistant, such as grading or basic data entry. Material supplies, resource, and equipment. So any costs associated with these types of materials for the purpose of the design and development of the EL intervention are eligible. Similarly, technology licenses and subscriptions for the purpose of design or development of the intervention, and what we're calling partial direct student costs. So what these are funds that are shared by the class, not for individual student use. So that's the clear differentiator here. So these could be costs associated with materials for students, supplies, services, equipment, licenses, subscriptions, fees, transportation, food, but it must be shared by the entire class. And this would be for the purpose of the implementation or delivery of the EL intervention. So an example of this could be paid transportation for the whole class to do a site visit. That would be an example of partial direct student costs. Okay. And then in terms of ineligible expenses, so there's two types of ineligible expenses, and these are direct individual student costs. So these would be funds given directly to students or deposited into student accounts as recognition of their participation. So this would include things like student remuneration or any of the other pieces that we mentioned previously, like material supplies, subscriptions, etc., that would not be shared by the entire class. So this would be provided, for instance, to one individual student. These types of costs are not covered, but there may be possibilities for external types of funding that could help support direct individual student costs. And then the last one is faculty, contract lecturer, staff, or librarian direct costs. So these would be any costs associated with faculty course release, wages for faculty, contract lecturers, or regularly assigned academic assistants, staff, or librarians who would regularly be employed by the university. Okay. And then for our priorities for this year, so for the 2026-2027 EL Design Grant, we are encouraging proposals whose EL course component, course intervention focuses broadly on one or more of the following impact areas. So those are advancing equity and access. So those projects that work to remove or mitigate barriers and create inclusive pathways for students who have been historically underrepresented. Situating in place. So those projects that reflect place-based pedagogies and center connection to local communities and contexts, while enabling the proactive investigation of multiple environments. So these could be social, ecological, political, etc., within which we work, learn, and live. Teaching on the land, so those projects that are held as being land-based learning, such as the relationship with the land being inclusive of all which forms the natural world, is the central feature or concept rooted in Indigenous epistemology and pedagogy. These opportunities may take place in urban, nature-based, rural, or remote locations, and are importantly Indigenous-led or braid Indigenous knowledges meaningfully into the experience under the guidance of Indigenous knowledge holders and elders. Driving social impact, so those projects that seek to address complex societal challenges and may align with the UN sustainability goals. And lastly, experimenting with emerging or immersive technologies. So those projects that make use of and or interrogate emerging and or immersive technologies. So things like AR, VR, generative AI, etc. And while these impact areas are being prioritized, I will say that we are welcoming all types of proposals. And if you are uncertain of whether your intervention qualifies again, please feel free to contact us and we can chat through that with you. Okay, I think we can go to the next one. So we've learned briefly about experiential learning at TMU and heard about what is eligible to be funded under the EL Design grant. So we'll discuss now how to apply. So in doing so, firstly, we'll highlight who is eligible to apply. So for the 26-27 EL Design Grant, faculty and contract lecturers are eligible to apply as the principal investigators, and staff and librarians are eligible to apply alongside as collaborators. And we would highly encourage applications that bridge relationships between experiential learning practitioners. And what I mean by that are those educators, such as yourselves, who intend to implement experiential learning within those courses, and the staff who support making experiential learning happen. Okay. So to help in supporting your decision to apply, it's beneficial to be aware of what you would be committing to should you become an EL Design Grant recipient. So recipients of the 26-27 EL Design Grant would be expected to, beginning in fall 2026, to work on building, as I mentioned, a new or scaling or enhancing an existing EL intervention within a course, and to create a sustainability plan for the EL intervention to be delivered in the future, to participate in the in-person cohort-based programming over the fall 2026 term and one-on-one consultative sessions over the duration of the grant period. Share their work at the Yale Design Grant Showcase and Celebration, complete an impact assessment and reflection upon their EL intervention once it's been implemented, contribute to the EL Hub's EL Campus and Community Showcase site, and provide the EL Hub a copy of their final course syllabus assessments and any other relevant materials related to their EL intervention to be stored in an internal EL Hub repository. Okay. So now in preparing an application for the EL Design Grants, it's helpful to be aware of the adjudication criteria. And I will say within our adjudication process, the applications will be peer reviewed by a selection committee composed of staff and faculty from or affiliated with the Experiential Learning Hub, Live Actor Simulation Unit, and the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching. And proposals will be assessed on the basis of the following criteria. Pedagogical appropriateness, whether an experiential learning opportunity is appropriate, or sorry, whether experiential learning is the appropriate pedagogical approach for the instructional opportunity or challenge being addressed. If the proposal reflects clear, measurable learning outcomes, curated experience, if the proposal describes an authentic, meaningful, and active student engagement in a selected experience, and sustained continuity if the proposal reflects an intentional realistic plan for sustainability of the intervention beyond the grant period, and scope and feasibility. So if the proposed activities to be undertaken and delivered to be produced are clear and feasible within the anticipated timelines and the budget that's requested. Okay. So in terms of how to apply, so what are the timelines for the grant? So the grant applications are open now. They open June 15th, and the deadline to submit is August 14th, 2026. And then all applicants will be notified either way of their decision in early September of 2026. So how do you actually go about applying? What are the steps? So in order to apply, you'll need to do the following. Familiarize yourself with the eligibility requirements, guidelines, and criteria, which you are doing now by attending this session. Complete a preliminary budget form and signatures form, and submit an online application. which also includes attachments of your preliminary budget and signatures form. If you do experience any challenges with the online application form or require it in an alternate format, please do let us know. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So what can you expect as an EL Design Grant recipient? So as an EL Design Grant recipient, you will be engaged in both cohort-based programming alongside your fellow recipients, as well as project-specific or individual consultative supports. Here I am saying project-specific supports, as it may be the case that one project could have more than one individual associated with it, such as in those cases where collaborators have been identified. So I'll speak a little bit to both of these components now in more detail. So to enable our cohort-based programming, the Experiential Learning Hub will support EL Design Grant recipients broadly through a framework of doing, connecting, reflecting, being, and becoming. So this is very similar to what you saw from our definition earlier. So in terms of learning by doing, we will engage on hands-on learning or learning by doing by modeling experiential learning pedagogies and practice in our work together. We anticipate there to be about 5 to 6 cohort sessions, each running approximately 2 hours in length over the course of the fall 2026 term. And we will work with the recipients to schedule times that do work for everybody. Learning by connecting. So connecting within the ELDG program will take a variety of forms. ELDG recipients will make meaningful connections through ideas, concepts, experience, and context, integrating theory into practice within their work. And more relationally, recipients will connect with their peers, the EL Hub, and previous recipients, building community through our cohort-based programming and having the opportunity to learn with and from one another. Learning by reflecting. So the bridging of knowledge and experience through critical reflection is at the heart of experiential learning. Essentially, it's where the learning happens. So through our program, we will engage critically in reflective practice, both within our work on designing our EL course interventions, but also more broadly around experiential learning, to uncover implicit and embedded assumptions, to develop alternative interpretations that may enable transformative learning and foster liberatory practices. And learning by being becoming. So this is really touching on your immersion in the program itself. And through that, recipients will be guided to individually and collectively reflect on their own development as an experiential learning practitioner and their resultant growth as an educator and community member, both within and beyond the institution. Okay. And to complement this, so to complement the cohort-based programming, as I mentioned already, ELDG recipients will also receive dedicated and ongoing pedagogical, administrative, and risk management support from the EL Hub throughout the duration of the grant. And where possible, the EL Hub will support facilitating connections and collaboration to individuals across campus who are engaged in work that is aligned with your project. Okay. And lastly, to give you a sense of the full grant cycle, I've offered here a general timeline of our expected activities. So to review quickly, our application opened on June 15th and will close on August 14th. This allows approximately 2 months to prepare the application. Grant adjudication will occur in late August, early September, with all applicants being notified of their decision in early September. Recipients will then be invited for an intake meeting to learn more about them, their courses, and your priorities for the proposed project, and begin to co-design a feasible budget and activity timeline that helps you effectively integrate experiential learning into your course delivery. This will be followed by the launch of our cohort-based programming around mid-September, which is dedicated to the design and development of your EL intervention, and which will run until December 2026. Recipients will then implement and evaluate their intervention in either the winter, spring, summer, or fall of 2027. And during this time, there might also be informal opportunities to connect with the cohort. And lastly, we will close our grant cycle with our ELDG showcase and celebration in fall of 2027, for which our 27-28 recipients will also be invited to share in the amazing work that you will have created. Okay. I will now pass it over to Dr. Tamer Abdu, who is one of our 25-26 recipients. And he will share a little bit with you about his experience constructing an industry integrated case study intervention for his CIND 110 data organization for data analyst course, as well as his experience within the EL Design Grant program itself. All right, so I'll pass it over to Tamer.
Thank you, Daniel. My name is Tamer, and I work at the Chang School, where I assist in running the data analytics certificates. The course that I'm talking about is called, students call it the database course, and this is the code of the course and the name of the course. Let's go to the next uh, slide. Okay, so a little bit about the course. So this is the roadmap of the course. Actually, if you look at it, you see that it covers many, many aspects, like starting from the structured database, like rows and columns, and all the standards that you need to be equipped with in order to retrieve, model, or migrate a database from one location or one server to another, and also touches many other types of the database. This course is delivered online with online proctored exams, and it's a credit course and one of the prerequisite courses for the master's program at TMU in data analytics. And it's also OSAP eligible and open for continuous learners as well. And also, it doesn't have any prerequisites. If you take this course as a student, you will see yourself wearing many hats, starting from database administrator, database designer, data analyst. And if you teach this course like a couple of times, you will see that, oh, students need to practice that in workplace environment. Students need to see someone who walked that talk. Students need to see a practice by a data engineer at their workplace as specific as possible. And that's actually was the focus of the grant. I I only focused on the first part, that's the structured database. I was very focused in explaining the problem. I didn't touch all the aspects of the course. I only touched the first part, which is the structured database. Let's move on to the following slide. Thanks. So this is actually what was delivered by the grant. First, redesigned assignment, and two, inviting two industry experts to give a workshop. And the workshop, it wasn't like a lecture. It's no, we communicate with the industry experts and ask them to formalize a user story, like for specific persona, for what specific needs, specific acceptance criteria. And that's very important. And actually, that took us lots of time to make sure that this matches the learning objectives of our course. We do not want to deviate from what we are delivering in this course. And also, it's a practical course. So some experts suggest some data sets. We need to make sure that these data sets, like at least like the anonymized users and avoiding any PII that might occur, and to protect the privacy of the persons or individuals in this data set. We succeeded in doing that, and we run two workshops with this approach in mind. And also on top of that, the grant helped in securing an environment online, like kind of authentic environment that students can communicate with. That was the Amazon relational database service. We bought that, we secured this service for 1 year, and students use it, and also the guest lecturer or the industry expert use that while running these workshops. It's the benefit of doing that. It gives an authentic environment for students to practice what they learn, the technical things that they learn in this course. And on top of that, of course, besides working with excellent team, and we 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 have that kind of concept in mind. What's next? Like, what's after doing this? Can we do that in the next term? Well, this term I'm teaching the same course, and my department is convinced to issue contract for guest lecturers now, to have them, to invite them to our course. And I think, in my opinion, that's a very good thing. Department been convinced using some of the reflections on the course, some of the surveys comes after running these sessions from the students, so they can see, was it good, was it worthy. These little things matter. Keep the scope manageable. That's my opinion. Actually, pick only one topic to to apply. It's not to apply what you have in your mind. Build in extra time for logistics. If software is involved, give it some time to set up and to prepare these environments. If a service or a tool is involved in your approach, reach out early to anyone involved and keep communication clear. I think that's very important. When you communicate with an industry expert, you need to tell them exactly what you need. And it will take some time to review and refine what they are listing. You need to be very careful when it comes to these communications with external industry experts. Document the process. At the end of the grant, Daniel asked me to fill in a report. It was like a little bit lengthy, but if you start to document everything that you have with the workshops, after running the workshops, don't wait until the workshop ends and then ask the students for a survey. You will not get a significant outcome out of that. Try to run it at the end of the session so you can get a significant and reliable observations and findings. Well, this is what I have, and this is what we did actually for the 110 course.
Okay,
Back to
awesome.
you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Tamer. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing your experience with everyone. We really appreciated it.